Ibecc, Chris Lloyd, Elise Todd, and I, Sophie Nguyen, are here today to represent Goldenwood Consulting and discussing the issue of palm oil use in Girl Scout cookies. But first, we would like to direct your attention to the Girl Scouts of America. This group was founded and brought together by Juliet Gordon Lowe in 1912 in hopes of aiding girls in developing into young women who demonstrate traits of courage, confidence, and leadership. The Girl Scouts are also well respected and valued in the communities they contribute to today. These groups also uphold their Girl Scout promise and law with integrity. And throughout these positive statements, we will be focusing on their word of using resources wisely and making the world a better place. A century after their creation, the Girl Scouts have continued to increase in popularity, not only from the good they exemplify, but also from the manufacturing and selling of their cookies. Cookie selling has become a popular trademark since 1917 to finance troop activities and help Girl Scouts build leadership, life, and business marketing skills. These cookies play a part as a cultural icon in America today, and many look forward to purchasing them every year. Something that may be unaware of is the use of palm oil in these cookies. It is a widely used vegetable oil, high in saturated fat, that comes from the fruit of oil palm trees and grown in tropical areas such as Indonesia and Malaysia. Although this oil is in high demand because of its convenience in production and acceptable pricing, it still has a huge impact on the environmental factors of society. Companies that make Girl Scout cookies, such as ABC Bakers, are aware of the issues of sustainability in their palm oil, but have only recognized the best alternative as palm oil, due to it being solely shelf stable. In retrospect, the unsustainable use of palm oil does not tie into the Girl Scout law.
Hello again, good afternoon. As previously stated, my name is David Gutierrez. I'm here to talk to you about the ethical issues behind deforestation for the manufacturing of palm oil. Deforestation is a detriment to the biodiversity inherent in rainforests. Biodiversity is something that we need because it creates a stronger ecosystem. Deforestation endangers several species, especially in the case of palm oil production, such as orangutans, Sumatran tigers and rhinos, and several others. Orangutans are predicted to be extinct in less than 20 years. Rainforests could hold undiscovered pharmaceuticals, which, if destroyed, would never be found. Deforestation in and of itself affects air quality on a global scale due to the fact that the trees act as a natural filter for these pollutants. And deforestation tactics release a lot of carbon dioxide in and of themselves. Palm oil manufacturing and deforestation affects local communities in the sense that it takes away natural resources, adds pollutants to the air which the inhabitants breathe, and causes corruption within the local governments. Forests are cleared by stripping and burning the landscape, which is another thing that contributes to the pollution. The Girl Scouts law expressly states that the Girl Scouts of America will do their best to use resources wisely and make the world a better place. This is a call to the Girl Scouts of America to be stewards of the earth. Deforestation goes directly against this law. Even if these things are not truly bad in and of themselves, they are perceived as bad by the public and are therefore a poor business practice.
We're aware the Girl Scouts have addressed this issue before in a very public manner, and they have turned to the Roundtable for Sustainable Palm Oil, also known as the RSPO. The RSPO issues certifications to companies claiming that they are using sustainable palm oil in their products. Many NGOs would refer to this practice as greenwashing. Greenwashing provides a mere veneer of being environmentally responsible. The RSPO was set up in 2004 in hopes of creating a more environmentally friendly way of producing palm oil, even though this is a near impossible practice. Many of the companies who belong to the RSPO blatantly disregard the organization's guidelines, including the company of Cargill, which has been a member of the RSPO since its instatement. Cargill has failed to follow a number of guidelines issued by the RSPO, as well as Indonesian laws, such as burning and using land for palm oil concessions. Let's see. And then the World Wildlife Fund, who is also a founder of the RSPO, no longer considers the certification sufficient for responsible companies such as the Girl Scouts of America we're speaking about today.
But we have two solutions that we're bringing forth today. The first one is switching to more sustainable sources of palm oil, which are basically just palm oil not from the rainforest. It's pretty simple. And the second one is switching to high oleic canola oil, which is, if you don't know, canola is like basically a grain, and it's planted by a lot of farmers, and it's from mostly simple sources. And this would benefit us for three reasons. Ethically, it's important because Girl Scouts should not be destroying the rainforest. It's just really bad marketing. Second, for economic reasons, because it'll be supporting sustainable farmers, which is important because we're supposed to be stewards of the earth. And third, for marketing, because people like being part of something green, and it'll be like a major boom for the Girl Scouts if they make people feel good for buying Girl Scout cookies because it's from sustainable sources. And so, the cost of just normal palm oil at the moment is about, it ships in like $1.81 per pound. Canola oil ships in, costs about $2.30 per pound. Sustainable palm oil costs about $2.30 per pound, and canola oil costs about $2.08 per pound. So currently, the Girl Scouts split up the revenues, they call it the 25-25-50, which is currently 25% of all revenues goes to bakers, 25% goes to the GSA executives, and 50% stays with the local troops. So if we switch oils, of course, it will increase costs a bit. So the two options is to either increase the price per box of Girl Scout cookies, or if you want to uphold the current price point, do something like we suggest, like 23-27-50. So 23% goes to the GSA, 27% goes to the bakers, and 50% will stay with the local troops. And so also at the moment, like Greenpeace and PETA are normally against all uses of non-sustainable palm oil, and they combined have 6 million members. And so, like, if hypothetically, if just switching to oils, would cost like 3 million people to buy a $3.50 box of cookies, they'll bring in an extra revenue of $10.5 million, which will also help offset any increased costs.
market this. And our best marketers are actually our Girl Scouts. You know, these girls are a great part of the community. They really benefit from the program, and they also benefit other people that are involved. So we want to go ahead and review the Girl Scout law, which is I will do my best to use resources wisely, making the world a better place. So we want to go ahead and save the rainforest and enforce these values. But I also want to go ahead and talk about new values, like such as advocacy and involvement for the girls. These young girls actually have already gone out and protested against the use of palm oil. They brought this attention to the actual association, and the association went ahead and replied with RSOP, which is actually not doing very much. So what I would like to address is the fact that if we get these girls to really get involved, not only their community, but the community globally, that would just do such a great good, not only for the organization, but for these girls' personal developments into young ladies. And I also want to go ahead and talk about how they can actually take this message and bring it out into the community. They can go ahead and educate their peers about deforestation, how these animals are being abused, they're being kicked out of their homes, they're left hopeless. But also in the environment, you know, the air is suffering from the CO2 emissions when people burn the forest, and also about the indigenous people that live in Malaysia and Indonesia. They're being booted from their homes because of the land that's used for palm oil. So when this happens, they lose their culture, they lose their community and their home. And I want the young girls to realize that there are different cultures out there and that we can appreciate them even though they're overseas. So these are just bigger lessons that we can instill in our young girls. There is also the partnership with PETA and Greenpeace. With these organizations, they have great memberships. So they can go ahead and help either fundraising for Girl Scout cookies or go ahead and be out there to sell Girl Scout cookies. And also provide, you know, mentorship as adults, as business leaders, because these young girls will eventually become leaders of America, whether in the business field or whether as Scout leaders. You know, we want them to have really great role models that care about the earth, because going green is so important. We have such a limited supply of things we can use on this earth, and you know, if we instill these lessons early, and we can teach them how to develop with the deal with the use of resources, that's even better. And we can also go ahead and talk about sustainable or high alkylic oil. These don't have trans fat, and high alkylic oil is actually healthier. And we can go ahead and talk about, you know, healthy living and just little positive things girls can do in their everyday lives, not in just, you know, the 6 or 12 weeks they go ahead and sell cookies. And I want to go ahead and, you know, review the Girl Scout promise and law, especially the use resources wisely to make the world a better place. Girl Scouts all over America have had a great impact on this country in the past decade. They are a great organization that has a very positive outlook and a very positive message on the community. So I want to go ahead and not only help our nation, but also, you know, the global community that there is. I want to expand this organization not to just, you know, cookie selling or just tabling or anything like that. We want them to go ahead and have a bigger impact and a bigger message, because everyone can make a difference, and these young girls are able to do it. They're already voicing their opinion, and we want to go ahead and ask you, the board of directors, to take a step further and help us change all these different uses of oils and everything. So with that, I would thank you, and my colleagues thank you as well. We hope you guys consider our use of either truly sustainable palm oil or high alkylic oil. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for being here tonight. I'll start off with a question. It's really to focus on what the ethical point is here. So you've made the example that it made the connection between what the trade-off is in using palm oil, and at the same time what the conflict or the contradiction is between palm oil and the Girl Scout message. Okay, and I think that was effective. My question is, you mentioned other advocacy groups for the environment. Are there other groups like the Girl Scouts that have considered this dilemma or this issue in a similar fashion, or is this the Girl Scouts alone in sort of having this challenge in front of you?
Okay, so the only other organization that I found who's really trying to make a stand against this is the World Wildlife Fund. They helped create the RSPO as a result of these ethical issues, but unfortunately the RSPO isn't really sticking up to what they believe, what their original goal is. But I don't think of any real commercial like products that are like try and make a switch from palm oil because of the ethical issues.
One thing that we did find in our research, though, was that the ISPO, if I'm not mistaken, the Indonesian Sustainable Palm Oil Foundation or something, they actually left the RSPO because they did not agree with the practices that they were using. There were several companies that were not required to change their practices until the year 2015, and the ISPO did not agree with that. So they left the RSPO altogether and founded their own Sustainable Palm Oil Organization.
You know, within the GSA, of course, we represent the GSA. Is this a major topic for us, something that's been growing in terms of significance? Is it something that's maybe just boiling beneath the surface, or is it a significant major driving issue for us?
We found that it's a very big issue, considering that there's a number of Girl Scout activists out there looking to change this, and that's why they turned to the RSPO. But we found that the RSPO does not use ethical tactics whatsoever, as well as he mentioned that the ISPO left the RSPO. Also, as well as for ethical reasons, they left because of mandatory Indonesian law that was set up because these practices were so detrimental to the environment and human rights. And as well as most companies in the UK are looking for more of a sustainable alternative, and we kind of were focused on the Girl Scouts being more of an innovator before it really boils to the surface.
Before it comes to the point where it's such a major issue where we have to take action, the best thing to do, both ethically and from a business standpoint, would be to take the route of action, find a better way to make these cookies, market it, and show people that the Girl Scouts of America are at the forefront of stopping the deforestation for the use of palm oil.
It would be helpful for me to understand, because one compelling number that you showed was that the difference between the current palm oil that we were sourcing versus the alternative oil didn't seem to be a really large number. Yeah, when we look at the difference here, or well, I take it back. So this 27 cents, when we're looking at the total cost, percentage cost difference of all the ingredients included in the manufacture of these products, how significant is this as a component of our total cost?
I couldn't find any resources to say exactly how much the total cost per cookie is, but of course, like Girl Scout cookies are made in bulk, like very large bulk. They're shipped all across the country. So this could be technically a significant cost, but that's what, I believe by switching up the way the revenue is split up, that it could easily cover the cost.
Okay, that was another question I had to follow on with. To a certain extent, when we're coming up with a split that adds to 100, it all really ends up still being a zero-sum game. There's only so much money to split, and we're splitting it in different combinations. And so when we're saying that, when our proposal, I guess this is the split that you showed is the 25, 25, 50, that's a net profits?
I found like Girl Scouts is more like net revenues. So that's what 25% of all cookies sold with the money is to go sent to the bakers to go cover their costs and profits.
Okay, so I'm curious how lowering the amount of revenue the bakers get while the bakers are absorbing a higher cost of the product.
No, the 23% is supposed to go to the GSA, not the bakers.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got.
It's fine. That's my fault. I should make it clear.
Okay. And what is it that keeps us from being able to easily do that? Is there a readily available supply of sustainable palm oil, and we're just opting to acquire it from non-sustainable sources, or is the problem that there simply isn't enough to go around, and so existing producers are being given longer windows to comply with RSPO rules?
From my understanding, there isn't much of a readily available supply of sustainable palm oil at the moment. That's why we strongly suggest switching to canola oil, because there's already tons of canola farmers out there, and it's a really available resource.
And truly sustainable palm oil, actually 100% truly sustainable palm oil that has no negative effects on the environment, is I forgot the exact number, but the research shows that it is much more expensive than switching to high oleic canola oil, which, as we stated earlier, is not only better for the environment, but it's also better for people. It's lower in trans fat, so it's less unhealthy.
Great, thank you.
If you approach it from that standpoint, we can market on both of those things.
Absolutely.
You had mentioned that earlier, and I don't remember the year, but that the Girl Scouts of America board of directors got involved, or the heads got involved in looking at the non-sustainable palm oil. Did they consider canola oil at that time? And if so, why did they not opt to go that way?
We believe so, but they found that palm oil possibly holds a longer shelf life, is what their bakers told them. They didn't really go in depth when they found the RSPO. The RSPO provides them a greenwashing alternative, which isn't a sustainable alternative, is what we found.
Okay. And the difference between the shelf life, do you know what that is between either what's advertised or?
We don't. We only know that they looked into other things that have more trans fat than palm oil, and then the ones that don't have a lower shelf life, such as a more organic approach.
I think in the presentation you mentioned that deforestation fosters corruption. May I ask you to speak a little bit more to that point?
The deforestation that fostered, the practices of deforestation which foster corruption within local communities and local governments is that there are laws against certain practices of deforestation. Now, humans are not infallible. When there's a possibility to have money made and it's in a remote part of a jungle, many of these laws are just blatantly ignored because it meets the bottom line in a faster and more economically friendly way. In the cases that we studied, not only was that the case that companies were willing to break the laws in order to have a higher amount of product to use or sell, but that the plants that they were building to make these, or to grow the trees, which necessitates the deforestation for the planting of the palm oil plants, it brought about a feeling of there's angst between the workers and the foremen, because the foremen were getting paid more money and the workers were getting paid significantly less for doing dangerous work, which caused injuries from working the equipment, as well as injuries sustained by spraying pesticides and using the other chemicals that are used in the planting and the cutting down and stripping and burning of the forest. So there was not only corruption on the governmental level, but as far down as the workers, there was cases of people being severely hurt and dying sometimes because of the practices used.
Many layers of health and safety issues, right?
Exactly.
So you've put in front of us two possible solutions. Is there a consensus on which of the two solutions we have a greater ethical obligation to pursue, or are they equally ethically strong choices? I mean, does one stand out as more ethical imperative for us to pursue?
If the palm oil is from a truly sustainable source, then they're ethically equal. The problem is it's hard to really find truly sustainable palm oil. So because of that, I think we should completely, we should not even delve into palm oil because there's so much corruption, as my colleagues have said. So instead we should use canola oil, which we know for a fact is ethically sound and sustainable.
And beyond that, beyond the the issue of deforestation from an ethical standpoint. If you look at it from the fact that canola oil, or the source of canola oil is grown within America as well, we could bring more jobs into America through using high oleic canola oil.
Have you guys thought about how you handle then the shelf life issue? So that if they chose not to use it early on because of the shelf life issue, how are you going to overcome that hurdle? Or what are your recommendations for overcoming that hurdle this go around?
Well, I don't think I was very clear. When they first went into looking at canola oil itself didn't hold as much of a shelf life, but high oleic is slightly more expensive than canola oil, and they weren't looking at high oleic. Sorry, that tidbit, but
So it wasn't apples to apples.
Yeah, so like theoretically, if they just use normal canola oil, it actually would be even cheaper than palm oil. But so we're just high oleic because it has a longer shelf life.
Are there differences in the nutritional value between the two? Is one
it's actually healthier, high oleic is.
Were there any legal implications that you may have considered or could be either an argument for or against a change in the recipe for making Girl Scout cookies?
So, well, can you
Are
repeat
there any legal implications or legal considerations that you may have considered or explored? And what, if anything, may you found or learned that would have influenced or we should consider in the decision of making a potential change in the cookies?
Well, practices by the Girl Scouts themselves, we did not, but they're borderline funding the almost brutalization of orangutans, which is critically endangered species, which is pretty much the only environmental law the U.S. currently follows. So they're not, the Girl Scouts aren't personally practicing these illegalities, but they're funding them, if that makes sense.
And beyond that, our research did not produce any legal issues in a switch to a different ingredient. But as my colleague pointed out, the ingredient that we're using now is in and of itself producing illegal action.
is there a lead time?
I think we're dealing with two issues here. I see marketable alternatives.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking about ingredients and also the pricing. But what about nutrition value?
Well, as stated earlier, the high oleic canola oil is actually lower in trans fats than the palm oil is itself.
The palm oil, like I mentioned earlier, the palm oil, as I mentioned earlier, they're very high in saturated fats, and the high oleic canola oil are high in monounsaturated fats and low in saturated fats, and contain no trans fat.
Have you looked into another alternative instead of canola oil? Maybe there's rapeseed oil, there's other oil that's, we don't have to import, like you mentioned. And Girl Scout of America.
We looked into rapeseed oil. We are suggesting it as an alternative because it's more expensive. It is more expensive than canola oil, and so we're going to decide that it will be economical replacement for palm oil.
As well as we looked into sunflower seed oil, and that's more expensive as well, but it's also a good alternative. We were just looking at more cost-effective alternatives. We also looked into soybeans, but that's used in unethical practices in the rainforest as well, so we disregarded that.
When you talk about availability also, how available the ingredients are and the nutritional value, but one other issue I noticed that you said if we have to raise the price or if we have to divide it differently, 23, 27, and 50, why would you increase the payment to the bakers because of the price of the oil?
We were suggesting to overcome the cost of the bakers for switching to a slightly more expensive oil, that we should go and give them an extra 2% of the revenues. And so the GSA organization would take the 2% hit. So they themselves would make slightly less profits, but for just from the dividends. But we believe that it would also increase profits because more people would want to buy Girl Scout cookies. so they don't be making more money.
But there's also savings that you can realize by packaging. You know, the packaging can give you some savings as well. So you can even out the price. Has that alternative been investigated?
Yeah, the 25-50 is what the Girl Scouts, they say the waste divide up, so we're using what they say is fact. There's some, they exactly how it's all the costs, but it's not public knowledge, so yeah.
I also want to mention that hydrocolloid oil is actually made in the U.S. So that way, if we were to form more plantations, that would actually draw jobs into the U.S. and keep it in America, as you said, the Girl Scouts in America.
If you change the ingredient, that means you have to change the packaging, the ingredient listing, right? And then you can always put new and improved.
Yeah, but
exactly.
Yeah, so they have to change the packaging, so it'd be like a one-time cost of just changing what's like palm to canola, which would, I don't believe the cost would be too much, but and then we can still put a sticker that says it's even greener, so more people would want to buy it.
And adding to that, part of our marketing plan would be to actually let people know that we actually made the change to another type of oil, so people can become aware that we went to one that was healthier and more eco-friendly. That way people will actually be more enticed to buy Girl Scout cookies as they already have in the past.
And with that solution, you cover two different marketing claims. You have the green cookies, which green sells in today's market. And beyond that, you have it's healthier because, as we said, it has, you said no trans fats, has no trans fats at all. So it's healthier and it's better for the environment. Those two things are very powerful marketing tools. That could, and those two things could in and of itself overcome the price change and even produce more income.
So far we've dealt with pricing, we've dealt with ingredients availability and all, but let's look at the ethical issue. Is there any effort planned to convince the palm oil companies to talk to the government in Southeast Asia to make sure that they replant after deforestation?
The problem with reforestation is that it doesn't have the same effect on the environment as the trees that already existed. Those trees that were already in the rainforest took years and years and years to grow. So planting baby trees, which will eventually grow, first of all, would not have an effect, if ever, fast enough. And second of all, after using the techniques that are used in deforestation, as well as palm oil production, there would be, the soil would be essentially stripped of nutrients. So it would be hard to reforest that area to begin with.
We mentioned bakers a few times, and the Girl Scouts, have we always had the same recipe and be specific to bakers as far as constituents for what they use in our products? And do we allow bakers any discretion here, or is it simply that we simply direct them and tell them what to do because it's our product, our brand? And they're a subcontractor. Do they have any other role in here?
The Girl Scouts officially say that the reason why they're seeing this with palm oil is because that's what the baker suggested, because they say it's more economical and it has better shelf life. So we're asking the Girl Scouts of America to basically order their bakers to make a change.
As well as historically, the Girl Scouts only recently started using palm oil because before what they were using had trans fat. And about 15 to 20 years ago, they found that trans fat was more detrimental, so then they found palm oil, and now.
Do you know what the lead time is on a crop? So obviously Girl Scout cookies come out once a year. When do they start tearing down the forest for the crop that will come out next year? Or for the, do you know what the lead time is?
I want to say it takes several months just because you have to actually go ahead and take the palm oil and to produce it into an oil that we can actually eat. And then to ship it overseas and all that would take some amount of time before the cookies actually are made, because they're made in bulk. There's millions of boxes. So I would say a couple months. And Girl Scout season only lasts about 6 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're not looking for palm oil year round. We're just looking for a one-time way to bake our cookies.
Yeah. With lead time, I don't think that is really Girl Scouts' concern, because they contract the bakers, and the bakers contract various different companies to go and ship them palm oil. And so There's tons of companies that sell oil. I don't believe that the Girl Scouts personally it's something I had to deal with.
I asked the question because clearly, from a future planning perspective, the bakers have already got their crop orders in
Yeah.
for the next round of Girl Scout cookies, whether it's delivered next month or in 5
Yeah.
months from now. I'm certain that they've already placed that order.
Yeah.
So does the canola, if they were to make the decision today to move out of the palm oil into the high oleic canola oil, at what point does that then make it into the market?
Obviously, it would take a long time to go and actually shift gears. So, no one would say the Girl Scouts are bad. It takes them about 5 years to slowly shift to canola. So only like some of their bakers would do canola 1 year, then increase from there.
And beyond that, if it did take time to make that switch, that just gives the Girl Scouts of America more time to plan a marketing strategy and maybe even beyond a marketing strategy just for their cookies or product that they're selling, but maybe even a fundraising or a marketing strategy to help right the wrongs that they've, whether directly or indirectly, done through their business practices, which again goes back to the public image. Whether or not something is innately bad or wrong in and of itself, if the public perceives it as wrong, that is what will hurt your business. So if you are, if a business, if the Girl Scouts of America is putting its energies and its actions into a marketing plan which will show America that it is doing the right thing now and is even working towards righting the wrongs of its past, that will put a much better view, that will make Americans view the Girl Scouts of America much more in favor.
That's about it as far as what we have for time. This is a fascinating topic. Thanks very much for picking your topic. I mean, people can talk about, guns and tobacco and other things that are bad, but if you're going to mess with Girl Scout cookies, this is serious. So it's certainly compelling. I think you have all our attention right from the get-go. And I was on razor's edge because I buy a lot of Girl Scout cookies. I don't like the idea of messing with that. I thought you guys did a very, very good job, and this is an excellent example. This is one of them. There's another one here as well of reflecting back to us, the Girl Scouts of America, who we are and what we're about, and how this issue is directly linked with not only how we see ourselves, but what we choose to represent, and in particular, what's important and passionate to us about Girl Scouts. So there was a very good connection in that sense, and I think you did a good job of focusing on the ethical dilemma, the conflict here, though it wasn't immediately obvious. And I'll pause just for a moment the next time I put a Girl Scout cookie in my mouth. I'll impact the rainforest, which is important to me. I am somewhat ignorant. I have boys, not girls, so I have my own dilemmas. But this was a good topic and a good discussion. One thing I think was I asked a question about. I'm not really aware there's a legal issue here aside from the indirect practice, which although you may choose to think otherwise, and you recognize it and mention it, you're effectively sort of subsidizing or facilitating a legal dilemma in those countries that produce palm oil. So that may not have been something that could have been explored a bit further. But one of the other thing I thought was during Q&A, your passion and connection with the subject was stronger than it was during the presentation. It's awkward as a group to sort of be a group and sit as a panel as you have and present from the podium. So although and all of us, I think, present in our jobs, and we all get up there and we want to focus on the content and the message and the recommendation of the decision and what do we end up talking about, our presentations and the format and what should have been, I missed dotting an I or I missed spelling in slide 14. So I would suggest in the future, think about different formats about how you present. It is at least as important as your message and what you're trying to accomplish and the dialogue you have with your audience. Think again, always remember it's what is going to work best for your audience and facilitate a conversation. Okay, so consider that in the future and maybe something you want to drive on different scenarios. But I think you guys picked a certainly an interesting topic. I thought that you presented the ethical parts of it well, and I think you kind of got behind it further in the Q&A session as we built on the discussion. So thank you.
Yeah, one of the dilemmas you have on the setup room, first of all, you're the biggest group of presenters that I've seen, and so that brings with it its own logistical issues. But I think, to Kevin's point as well, I've sat in on presentations here at this facility in 3 different rooms, and all 3 have completely different setups. And so I know it makes it really hard to practice and rehearse and to do things, and then you could have walked into any one of 3 rooms that had a completely different setup to have to quickly adapt to how you were going to deal with it. And so I leave you a little bit of extra leeway for that, because I was just kind of surprised how different every room setup was. So that was one part. It's just a little ticky-tack thing, but for me, it's always annoying and it's always painful when people have to walk across in front of the screen and get blinded by the light and take the letters with them and everything else. So it was difficult. I'm sure if you guys had the time to set up the room differently, you could put the table over there and everything would have been fine. But that's a little thing. I agree. The only time I cringed in the whole presentation when someone suggested putting fewer cookies in the box. I think I paid like $6 for a box of 4 cookies this year. So I don't know I don't know how much further you can go. And shelf life has never been a problem with Girl Scout cookies in our house.
Really? Shelf life?
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a concept. So they never sit on our shelf at all.
Really eat or freeze? It's very black and white.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that the one thing that would have helped me just a little bit more in the presentation was to whatever extent you could have brought a little bit more hard number evidence to the table in terms of, is it viable for the bakers? Would we find any other baker who would make these things for us in the volume we want if we have to substitute an important raw material ingredient that's 10% more expensive than what we're currently having to use in the product? And because that would have made it more compelling to me. If you said it's going to change the net profit to the baker by $1.50 cents a box, and they're getting 25% of the revenue, so on a $6 box, they're getting $1.50 now, and their total cost to produce the cookie is $1. It would be much more compelling to me to say, well, the cost of $1.01, versus $1 to make $1.50. It would have been helpful to have that. I think it would have made our decision much more of a no-brainer, because the slide that you left up here right now is the most compelling one. To me, the issue is kind of like, well, who cares really, except for the fact that probably on every brochure and every handbook and everything they hand the girls, it has this promise in it, which specifically says, use resources wisely and make the world a better place. So for us to be even supporting something tangentially that is so core to our mission that we probably have girls memorizing this, this promise, and for us to knowingly be contradicting that, I think is a real ethical dilemma, and so I think the urgency could have been placed even more so on that than the effect that it's going to cause. I would hate to see the last orangutan go too, but if I'm sitting on the GSA board, I would get real squirmy with you leaving that slide up there the whole presentation and having me try to internally justify how it's okay, to keep using the products that we're using. It was funny, before it started, everyone said, boy, this is like the third rail. I mean, we couldn't wait to see how you guys were going to mess with Girl Scout cookies, because we need and just a couple other little tiny, just presentation things. Alice, you had a lot of really compelling stuff to say, and when I replay it in slow motion, I'll know everything you said. So the nervous energy is really hard, but you really, you had a lot of really important things to say, and I don't think you gave me time to digest them all. They went by a little too fast. And one last little thing, presentation as well. You know, it's really hard when you're on a panel to realize that you're the audience that everybody's looking at, and how compelled you look by what your fellow colleagues are saying is a really important reflection. And so there's just little tiny professionalism things that you just need to pay attention to and work on. There's one in particular, don't put your pen behind your ear. Especially when you're in the front of the room and everybody can see it. You know, so there are little bitty things like that. But the last point I was going to make, we said the marketing package would look so great with the smiling orangutan with his thumb up and a cookie in his hand getting ready to bite into it.
Endorsed by the orangutan.
Exactly.
For America.
So I really enjoyed the topic, and thank you for the effort.
I wanted to say that I really, really, really loved the first pictures. We are so busy in our lives that it is so far away to even understand what a orangutan's life is like. So some of those earlier pictures really brought home to me the reality of the problem. So I commend you on pulling your pictures, because they made it real to me and not just something that's going on a long, long way away, and I have no understanding and no concept of what it really is all about. So that picture right there totally made me want to cry. And to Dan's point, if that picture then had a little Girl Scouts do good vibe on there, I probably would have cried, right? I'm going to commend you on mentioning that it's not just right to do the right thing, or it's not just that it's a bad thing what's going over there and that being green is a good thing, but it's the perception of it being good. One of the biggest challenges in my life has been learning that you really are managing throughout life perceptions. You're not managing your message, you're managing what people are hearing. And so understanding that perception, whatever the community perceives is happening, whether it be real or not, is really the problem, the challenge of whatever it is we're trying to fix, is the perception. I want to encourage you to not use acronyms. Pretend for a moment that you're texting your great-great-great-grandmother. Would she understand anything you say? Probably not. LOL means nothing to her. In a presentation, when you guys use acronyms, NGO was thrown out, GSA was thrown out, the Indonesian one was thrown out. Try to use the whole name instead of the acronym when you're giving presentations, because inevitably someone in the audience isn't going to know what that acronym is. And they're going to stop listening to the message because they're trying to figure out what the acronym is. So if you can help it in your presentations, try not to use the acronyms. There are some, PETA, that are pretty well known. So once you say it once fully, then to use the acronym on those real well known ones are a little bit different. Obviously GSA would be one that you could use once you said the Girl Scouts of America. And then, great job. Again, we all talked about how don't mess with the Girl Scout cookies. There is no real shelf life; they are gone. I did learn a few years ago that I just buy 2 boxes because I'm going to get 5 Girl Scouts come to my door.
Yes.
So I can contribute to all 5 Girl
I'll Target at the
Scouts.
grocery store.
Yeah, right,
For like
yeah.
2 months. You'll be assaulted all the way.
But I think it's a great topic, one that I too did not have any concept of the issues, so I appreciate you bringing it to the table.
I did my undergraduate work at Cal State Fullerton, so I know your campus well. I really want to commend you. When I saw that Golden West College is going to be here, and it's a community college, and many of your first-year students, I said, yes, that's great. So I'm really proud of you for getting up here and doing what you did, and you did a tremendous job, and keep it up. Now let me give you some feedback. you get some good feedback from folks here that are professionals that have been around for a long time. So you know, don't get your feelings hurt, okay? Because we're saying it from the heart because we really like what you did and we want you to do better and do better in life. But I know many of you were very nervous, and that's common, okay? But the best way to get over that is to do it again and do it again and do it again. And you're going to get better at it. But one of the things in particular that I want you, if you're doing this, is talk about how difficult it is when you have a panel. It's easier if there's two people, right? One person talks to the other person. When you have a panel, the transitions are hard. So if you're going to do a presentation that involves people, work on the transitions, okay? Because it seemed choppy. You know? So work on that. You might not have that problem, like I said, if you have less people doing it. The other thing, why did you pick this subject? Is this just a theoretical, or do you really care about this? Who cares about this? Okay.
I was the one who picked the topic.
Okay.
I have personal friends who have gone to Borneo to work with the orangutans it's actually pronounced orangutan. We've been pronouncing it wrong, but it's a kind of a struggle. But I have friends that are so passionate about this and they've seen this. I have graphic pictures. And then it just happened when we were picking the topic. It was Girl Scout season and we noticed the little label on there. So we were just curious how far that went. So
that's good, and I was hoping you'd say that because, like we told a previous group, don't stop here. You could do something with this. And I'll tell you, I have young kids. My kids don't know about what you just said. If my kids knew that, they wouldn't eat Girl Scout cookies because they care about the ecology, they care about people in other countries, and they would not eat another Girl Scout cookie. So you might want to do something with this, and the folks you tell are the kids. And you guys know how to communicate. That's one thing about your generation. I would encourage you, keep up the good fight on this. You could make the difference in this. You could be the ones that turns this around and gets the Girl Scouts to change their practices. And how cool would that be? Thank you.
I also want to say good job. I can tell that this is a new experience for you, and I appreciate all of you pushing through it and staying with the cause, and that once you settled in and got in your seats in the Q&A, all of that tension and nerves naturally just seemed to come away, and you found your zone. And so there was no question that you did the research and the legwork, and that you dug into this, and for various parts were really eating and breathing the topic. So I think, you just need more practice, more time in front of an audience, more experience, but you tackled this wonderfully. And like I said, once you settled into and found your zone, you had the answers for whatever was coming at you, and two or three of you were waiting to reinforce each other's points. So your content knowledge was excellent. I would say my kind of take on a lot of these presentations has been the missing slide. So in that theme, I think that the way that you've come to us as you're the experts, you're the consultants, you want to move us to an action. You've given us two choices. I think the missing slide would have been, this is our primary suggestion, pros and cons, and this is our secondary suggestion, pros and cons. And then you leave it to us where we're like, okay, well, we should really go with the expert advice, or plan B, we'll get there in stages. We'll do this one first. So that would have been the missing slide for me. I think that you're right to draw the line between the legal issue and the orangutans and how we're contributing to something that we know and shouldn't be. But I think you missed an opportunity to draw it right back to this. Our self-imposed law. That's the legal requirement that we hold ourselves to. So I would have I would have said, first and foremost, and, on a global spectrum, the law that we're violating indirectly would be this, but from our own personal, board of directors, the law that is the most grievous is our own self-imposed law. Then I would say you have figured out what is right now what everybody's doing in social media, and that is you've figured out how to leverage the meme. And the memes are ridiculously emotionally compelling because they work with our left and our right brains. So using an image like the orangutan with a factoid or this with just 2 lines of text engages the full brain, and it gives you a data point and an emotion point, and that's ridiculously powerful. So I think you did a great job building on what others have said of just putting that out there, and you were very passionate and compelling, and this is something we've held ourselves up to a standard. We're ruining the world, and we can't do this for dessert. Good job.
The sort of the juxtaposition between the Girl Scout motto. You started off with courage, confidence, character. I thought it was really strong. That juxtaposed what you showed through the photographs of deforestation and animals, etc. I liked that part, the slides, and I liked the Q&A the best. And the reason I think was the Q&A, you really, your personalities came out. I think it was into the presentation more that you were relaxed and you sort of became the message. And I was drawn in and really enjoyed that. I wrote in my notes here, practice, practice, practice. And I got the secret to tell you that even at this late stage in life, if I am presenting to a committee or the full board of governors, I get with my friends at work and I lock them in a room with me and let me do that, and I deliver it to them. And then I lock in a different group of people and I deliver it to them. Then I sit down my poor long-suffering husband and I deliver it to him. And you can't do it enough. And so, and once you do that, then you get to the sort of the mode that you were in on the Q&As, because you know it better than your audience. You've practiced it, you've gotten all the kinks out of it, and then your personality comes through and we feel the passion. I liked that. I think that sitting at the table, if you had had a microphone that passed along, it would have been more comfortable maybe it would have been for me in the audience, because I felt for you when you had to get up and walk across, etc. And so that would be another way to do it. I also liked, you gave a couple options twice. One was the option of sustainable palm oil or canola oil. You gave pros and cons of each. And then another time you said you can either increase the box cost or you can do the percentages 23, 27, 50. I liked that. It brought me in, it gave options and showed me that you kind of thought through. I also liked how you presented it, and we as the board of directors, Girl Scouts, I didn't feel like you were blaming me. I felt like we were both looking at the problem. You were showing what you had found. I didn't feel on the defense, and I thought that was a nice part of how you came in. You came in sort of mildly. You made your case. You answered questions passionately, and we were sort of looking at this all together. So, anyways, I did a great job. I also previously have gone to Toastmasters, which is a great group. I don't know if you've heard of them, but it's a speakers group.
Any questions for us? Sure, go ahead.
Okay. You know, we all know that information is giving out or receiving, and communication is getting through. And instead of just telling you what we think what you did, let me ask you, how do you feel about your presentation? Were you getting through to us?
Oh, I sure hope so.
I would have to agree with what several of you stated, that our presentation was not the fine point, but the Q&A, when you guys could ask us questions and we could answer those questions. I felt we all answered those questions very efficiently, but beyond that, we expounded on not only the answers to those questions, but other things that those questions brought into our mind from the research that we did.
I just want to add that we are a debate team, so we're used to like having conversation with each other and actually debating each other in our meetings. Most of our meetings, we don't actually have the same opinion. So when we do Q&A, I feel like we're more comfortable just because we like having a conversation, discussing points, bouncing back ideas, rather than just coming up and doing a presentation. But we did enjoy the questions, and I feel like because of them, we got to expand on like our own ideas and to really show like the different alternatives we have, the reasoning why we have them.
Because it's an experience for all of you to hear what the comments are, but I want to hear your comments also. How many times did you rehearse together?
We practiced quite a few times. Yeah, like we've been constantly changing the slideshow throughout the entire thing, so this is like the nth version of the slideshow.
Well, especially since this club was founded for an ethics bowl competition, which is done in this format where we're sitting at a table. So that's what we're used to. This is a new competition for us because we were bored. Like we needed something to do. We needed something to compete in. So we found this and we were so excited because we got to prepare a presentation. And then we realized that, oh, we're not very good at presenting. We should have probably practiced. Like, that's what we did in practice is we sat here and we spoke about it. We didn't get up and walk to a podium and lose notes and such. But it was
Great
interesting.
first effort.
Yeah, great
First time.
There you go.
But you know, you kept saying marketable alternative. You want to, if you do a presentation, you want to impress the audience, the audience, okay, not the audience. But think about it. You people have a unique opportunity. I'm always advising other businesses what to do. People mind other people's business. But think about it. We're dealing with some of the subjects the two judges are going to. You're looking at gold mining and public safety and video games and such. You have a very unique opportunity. First of all, you can promote Girl Scout cookies by telling us when is the season that they do that. Is it around just April or when? What? So we're aware of that, you know?
Is it April and then calendars in November?
Is it?
In my day it was.
It's like late winter, early spring.
Yeah.
And that's number one. Number two, if you could have bought some cookies and we'll never forget about it. So very well done.
We did think about that.